Marvel, from Mecha creator to Ultraman legend, episode 31, let's get on. As the eldest of the three warriors of the Immortal Palace, Bostag was the first to rush to the front. I saw him jumping high at an extremely fast speed, holding the giant axe in both hands and slashing hard towards the destroyer. However, if you go fast, you will come back quickly. The destroyer knocked him back with a flick of his arm, and the whole process was like chasing flies. This shows how powerful the power of the destroyer really is. Of course, Hogan and Vandal were not idle, and the two attacked at the same time, one left and one right. Bang bang. The result was still the same, the destroyer waved his arms and instantly knocked the two away. However, at this moment, Sif did not know when she had come behind the destroyer, only to see her jump high with a scream, and then stab the spear in her hand into the destroyer's chest. Poof. The spear easily pierced the armor of the destroyer, pinning it to the ground. Seeing this, Sif looked at everyone proudly, but before she could show off, she saw that the legs and feet of the destroyer were all reversed. Flash away. Roth reminded loudly, and then the Spersham sword in his hand was cut out without hesitation. In an instant, a chopping wave formed by Spitcham's energy slashed towards the destroyer. As if sensing the danger, Sif decisively gave up the spear in her hand and threw herself to the side with a jump. It was too late, and I saw a white chopping wave slashing towards the destroyer in an instant. Thundered. In an instant, the earth cracked into a deep ravine, all the way to 100 meters away. This. Not to mention Coulson and their agents, even Thor and the three warriors of the Immortal Palace were deeply shocked. It's not like humans can do it. This guy is enough to be called a warrior. The destroyer is not moving, is it really solved? At this moment, the smoke flashed with a hot light again. Everyone was shocked in their hearts, but the next moment the light dimmed down. The smoke and dust dispersed, and I saw that a huge wound had actually been cut out of the chest of the destroyer, and even the inside of the armor could be clearly seen. Is it really solved? The three warriors of the Immortal Palace expressed some unacceptance. The destroyer was actually defeated by an outsider, which was simply hitting them in the face of Asgard. But there was no way the other party helped them. No, it's not over yet. Just when everyone was relaxing, Lot stared at the destroyer's armor with dead eyes, because he found that the wound in front of the destroyer was actually healing rapidly. Sure enough, although such an injury made the destroyer's armor temporarily immobile, it was impossible to truly defeat the destroyer. Unless he can really use the Spitcham Ray. The people who were originally relieved suddenly felt half cold after hearing his words. Damn, can't you defeat the destroyer like this? Bostag gritted his teeth and was about to rush up again, but was stopped by Thor. This matter started because of me, let me solve it. After that, Thor walked straight towards the destroyer, and at this moment he finally understood what responsibility was and how to become a real king. At the same time, Mjolnir several kilometers away seemed to be summoned at this time. Immediately after that, it flew away directly in front of the numerous researchers of S.H.I.E.L.D. Roth also sensed the power of this thunder, so that Thor should be able to easily defeat the destroyer. But until then, he didn't plan to leave just like that. Putting away the damaged Spirium sword, he then took out another Spitcham sword. Although he cannot unleash the true Spitcham Ray, he has two Spicum swords. Let him deliver this final blow and see if he can tear down this destroyer. Without any hesitation, Roth suddenly slashed out a sword again. Thundered. The entire street was instantly cut off into an X-shaped ravine, and the chopping wave formed by Spitcham's energy also hit the destroyer accurately. Can such an attack still be used? Tony, who was just about to walk over, was startled, and he didn't expect that Roth could actually use the trick just now again. When the smoke cleared, he saw that the injuries on the destroyer's body were even greater, and his entire waist was almost cut off. However, Rao is still slowly recovering. It seems that it is impossible not to hit the point. Roth frowned, the destroyer's helmet seemed to be harder than his body, and he was still intact under the attack of Spitcham's chopping wave. Now he is completely helpless. Both Spitcham swords were damaged, and he had no means of dealing with the destroyer. But fortunately, Mjolnir in the sky also flew over. Thor also seemed to notice, and he looked in the direction where Mjolnir flew from, and was immediately surprised. Thundered. The moment he got Mjolnir's hammer, the whole person was bathed in the majesty of thunder. Immediately afterwards, a warrior wearing an armor-red cloak and holding Mjolnir appeared in front of everyone. At this moment, everyone who had doubted Thor's identity before was all stunned. Sorry, son of Odin, we were before. Coulson took the initiative to apologize. After all, when Thor broke into the temporary base of S.H.I.E.L.D. to grab Mjolnir, he directly imprisoned him. It's okay. Thor, who retook Mjolnir, did not count so much with him. Episode 32, Thor, great, you're finally back. The three warriors of Immortal Palace and Sif all looked at him in surprise. Well, I'll teach Loki a good lesson this time. Despite how much he indulged Loki, this time Thor decided to teach him a good lesson. Thor. Jane Foster on the side was a little reluctant, recalling the process of meeting Thor as if in a fairy tale. An ordinary girl met a real prince one day. Want to see the bridge where we go back? Thor didn't know what to say, and he also had a special affection for the woman he met in Midgard. Of course. Jane readily agreed. Wait a minute. Thor said as he walked in Lot's direction. Thank you, warriors, Asgard will always remember your help. Thor thought that if the warrior in front of him hadn't helped drag down the destroyer this time, there would have been deaths and injuries among them, and even he himself would probably have died. That guy hasn't lost his mobility yet. If it weren't for the fact that the destroyer hadn't been completely defeated, Roth would have been gone long ago, and he wouldn't need Thor's thanks. Don't worry, I'll take care of the rest. Thor confidently held Mjolnir and walked towards the destroyer. After the baptism of 2 Spichum energy shockwaves, the destroyer was already tattered at this time, but after a while, he recovered most of it. If you give it some more time, I believe it will recover fully soon. Seeing this, Thor picked up the hammer and smashed it on the helmet of the destroyer. Thundered. With a blow of lightning completely destroying the destroyer's control core, Loki can't control the destroyer anymore. Thor turned to look at everyone with a smug look. And Roth, after hearing the prompt that the task was completed, had already turned around and flew away with Gwen. Maybe I can recommend Iron Superman to the director, and with him joining the Avengers, it will be much easier to deal with such a tricky incident. Coulson sighed. He really felt too tired. He had just dealt with Ivan Vanko's affairs, followed by the arrival of the destroyer. It was such a good luck that an ordinary person like him was able to survive these dangerous missions. But there is no guarantee that he will not die in the next mission. So he decisively dialed Nick Fury's phone. Coulson, how's it going? As soon as the phone was connected, the first thing Nick Fury asked was about the arrival of the legendary Norse Protoss. After all, if this matter is not handled well, it is likely to trigger a war between the two civilizations. Director, can you arrange something easy for me next time? Coulson couldn't help but grumble. Okay Coulson, don't worry, the next mission will definitely be simple. Nick Fury is a little helpless. If there are more people available in S.H.I.E.L.D., he will not let Coulson go for everything. There have been so many things lately that there simply aren't that many people to trust. Well, the matter on the chief's side has been settled, and Thor and his warriors have left, and it is said that they have returned to Asgard God domain. Specifically, Nick Fury needs to know what happened. Coulson had no choice but to say it from beginning to end. After knowing that the enemy was alien technological armor, Nick Fury was a little frightened. And when he learned that Steel Superman actually almost destroyed the alien technology armor, he was a little relieved. At least Earth is not without resistance to alien technology. Finally, he has always considered Coulson's suggestion to invite Iron Superman into the Avengers. After all, Superman Steelman's technological power is obviously stronger than Tony Stark, and he has not done anything bad. On the contrary, most of the monsters that appeared in New York were handled by Steel Superman. At a time when the Avengers are short of talent, Nick Fury is very eager to contact Steel Superman and pull the other party into the Avengers if he can. But alas, until now, he didn't know who Steel Superman really was. The opponent's armor has a signal shielding system that completely blocks out radar detection. Of course, Nick Fury is not without clues, but this matter needs to be verified by someone. Meanwhile, return home on a private jet. Lot, what kind of weapon did you just use? That's awesome. Gwen's big eyes were full of excitement. Lot's attack just now was too shocking, and it only took 2 strokes to render the terrifying destroyer robot ineffective. Although it is not completely solved, it is powerful enough. Lot's adoring eyes were also very useful, and he took out the destroyed Spichum sword and laughed. This sword flows with Spichum rays, and the previous slashing wave was also caused by Spichum's energy, but unfortunately it was destroyed after using it once. That's awesome. Although Gwen didn't understand what the Spichum light was, she just knew that it was very powerful. Such a powerful weapon in her heart, only Roth can create it. Roth shook his head a little amusedly. The Spichum sword was not only powerful, but also expensive. You must know that it costs $10 million to create a Spichum sword, and even if it is repaired, it will cost $5 million. Episode 33, that is to say, if the 2 swords cut down just now, 10 million US swords will be gone. But he is not distressed. Money is not a problem for him at all. The technology in this world is indeed very developed. Some technologies can be said to be trans-era. But mobile phones and networks are still stuck in the era of flip phones and 3G networks, not to mention TikTok and VX. Therefore, it was taken advantage of by Roth. If he wants to make money, the most important thing is that money is really just a number for him. Looking at the 8,000 points that had just arrived in the system, Roth did not hesitate to directly exchange the primary quantum teleportation technology. With this technology, it is possible to wear Ultra Armor anytime, anywhere. It looks like the next few months are going to be busy. Before achieving elementary quantum teleportation, you have to build a chain of satellites so that you can wear Ultra Armor anywhere. And if you want to build a chain of satellites, you have to launch at least hundreds of satellites. So then some are busy. Just returned to the helipad on the roof of the OTT headquarters building. Unexpectedly, there was already a person waiting here. Susan, why are you here? Roth looked at Susan, who came over angrily with some surprise, and it seemed that he was going to be misunderstood. Don't you introduce me? Susan looked at Gwen with her hands on her chest, and if she hadn't been sneaking around to see what Lot was doing, she wouldn't have known that the Underground Research Institute was completely open to another woman. This should be only her prerogative. Although she was a little angry, she still believed in Roth very much. After questioning Alice, she also understood that Gwen existed. So she seemed very angry, but in fact, she didn't blame Roth in her heart. After all, a man as good as Roth has few sexual encounters, and it is completely impossible to say. Hello, my name is Gwen Stacy. Gwen smiled and held out his hand. She was not surprised by Susan's appearance, because she had inquired about the situation about technology before, and knew that Roth did have such a secretary. There is no news about the relationship between the two, although there is no news. But even if it is a boyfriend and girlfriend, the man she wants will definitely strive for. Hello, I'm Jennifer Susan Walters, you should know I'm Lot's girlfriend and secretary. Susan looked down at Gwen Dow condescendingly. This domineering look made Gwen very uncomfortable. Humph. I will not lose to you. I said you two don't fight. Gwen is my new recruit of the team, you should have heard her nickname, called Spider-Man. Roth helplessly interrupted the two who were watching. I wonder when you formed your team. Also, isn't Spider-Man a street punk? Who do you say is a punk? Gwen was a little angry. Oh. Sorry, I mean the guy who got into a fight with a street punk. Susan corrected her words again. But this made Gwen even more angry. Isn't fighting with street punks still punks? This statement is really infuriating. Seeing the fertile appearance of the two, Lot was a little helpless. Susan, you are actually a member of the Ultra team, but I didn't tell you. Everyone will be on the same team in the future, so can you get along well? Ultra Warfare team? Do I remember joining a team like this? And what does this team do? Susan looked at him suspiciously. What the hell is this guy capable of? Can you actually join the Ultra team? Gwen had doubts about her abilities. The so-called Ultra team was formed in response to future crises. Susan, you as a future female Hulk have naturally been scheduled by me to join. Wait. Female Hulk? Are you talking about me? As if hearing something shocking, Susan's face was full of shock. Yes, although you are not yet a female Hulk, it is only a matter of time. Roth spread his hands and did not intend to hide it. In fact, the people of the Bruce Banner family all have a special adaptation to gamma rays, which means that the entire family has a chance to become the Hulk. Susan is like that. I don't want to be that green guy. Susan is very resistant to becoming the Hulk. After all, the green guy is really not very pleasant. Susan, you listen to me, you don't become so ugly after you become a Hulk. On the contrary, I think it's very good looking, and you also know that there have been many strange things happening in the whole world recently, maybe when aliens will invade Earth, so I hope you can also have the ability to protect yourself. Lot grabbed Susan's shoulder and looked seriously. This? Susan saw that he was so serious, and it was difficult to refuse for a while. Oh, if you feel ugly, don't change, just be an ordinary person. Anyway, every time I go out on a mission, it's just me and Roth. I believe I will be able to snatch Roth back from you soon. Gwen clasped her hands to her chest and smiled. Susan was a little angry when she saw this, and she was also a little afraid that Lot would be snatched away. Isn't it really going to be that ugly? Of course, I said before that, Susan, after you become a Hulk, you can transform at will, and it has no effect on you now. Roth's answer was very decisive. The original Susan was indeed able to control freely after becoming a female Hulk, and her strength may be slightly inferior to Banner, but this is completely acceptable. Okay then. In order not to be stolen, Susan could only reluctantly agree. Episode 34, well, I'll arrange for you to become a female Hulk after a while. Roth nodded in satisfaction, but if he wanted Susan to become a female Hulk, he had to agree to it. This is a problem, after all, Banner is now very repulsive to the Hulk, and he is likely not to let Susan become a female Hulk. But that's not a problem, just convince him. That. At this time, Gwen came over a little embarrassed, looking like he wanted to say something. What's wrong? Roth looked at her strangely. Let's go talk in your lab. Gwen glanced at Susan, clearly not wanting to say it now. Say something. Roth would not know her careful thoughts, but if she carried Susan behind her back, she would not have a good life in the future. Well, actually, I want to talk to you about creating a spider suit. Previously, after seeing that his ultra armor was so powerful, Gwen was naturally a little cautious, and she also wanted to transform her spider suit to make herself stronger. But her own words are definitely not good. It turned out to be this thing, no problem. Roth thought that what was the matter, and he naturally didn't ask to help transform the spider suit. It's a pity that he hasn't mastered the technology of nano armor yet, otherwise he can help her create the nano spider suit that Tony created for the spider in the original book. Of course, Gwen's power actually comes more from spider genes, and now she is far from exerting her true strength. The ghost spider that perfectly exerts its strength may not be able to defeat Hulk and Thor. But it's absolutely no problem to go 5-5 with the American team. Gwen saw that he agreed without hesitation, and was immediately very happy. By the way, Susan, you come with me. Gwen, you go to the underground research room first. No, I have to go back first, bye. Gwen knew he had important things to do next, so he jumped straight off the roof. Hey. Susan was startled when she saw her suddenly jump off the building. Don't worry, don't forget she's Spider-Man. Roth shook his head somewhat amusedly. Next, it's time to start preparing the satellite chain program. 100 satellites is no small project, and this is only a small goal in the early stage. His real goal is to launch thousands of satellites to cover the entire Earth, like Musk, forming a satellite network that covers any part of the Earth without dead ends. In this way, nothing that happens on the entire Earth can escape his control. When the time comes, the monster can be found as soon as possible. And if you want to launch satellites, you naturally need to build rocket silos. This is very simple for Roth. In fact, Ultra Armor can carry satellites into the sky. But in the long run, he still has to build a rocket silo, which is not difficult for him. A week later. Shocking news. OTT Technology is preparing to build a rocket silo. What is its purpose? I can't believe it, the genius Roth has made a big move again. He built a rocket silo to launch satellites. Autotech actually plans to launch satellites. Is it to prepare for upgrading the 5G network? Looking at the news in the New York Daily News, Roth couldn't help but roll his eyes. Are these people really reporting everything, just building satellite silos? Hearing his words, Gwen nodded reasonably. Of course, as for you, are you a legend in the business world, or a more genius than Tony Stark? Who do these newspapers not report on you? Speaking of which, I still don't know your purpose in building the rocket silo. Purpose? Launch satellites, of course. Roth shrugged. Gwen couldn't help but roll her eyes when she heard this. Of course I know it's a satellite launch, but what about after launch? There are many uses for launching satellites, of course, the main thing is naturally to achieve quantum teleportation. What? Before he could finish speaking, Gwen exclaimed. You mean quantum teleportation? Did I hear you right? Luo nodded. You heard it right, the main purpose of my satellite launch is to achieve quantum teleportation, and then there will be no need to bother so much when wearing armor. Have you really implemented quantum teleportation technology? Gwen's eyes widened, although she was not as smart as Lot, but she was still clear about the concept of quantum teleportation. And she also knows very well that quantum teleportation is simply impossible with the current technology of humans, which is why she is so surprised. You heard it right, I did achieve quantum teleportation, follow me. Roth said as he led her into his lab. In the past week, he has not only repaired 2 Spicum swords, but even quantum teleportation has been initially realized. However, at present, the distance that can be transmitted is limited, probably only the entire range of New York, and not farther away. It must be used with satellites, to wear Ultra Armor anytime, anywhere in the world. Alice, start putting on Saiwen Armor. Yes sir. The moment Alice's words fell, the smartwatch on Lot's wrist flashed with light. He opened his hand slightly, and in an instant, a deep light flashed away, and then the Saiwen Armor had already appeared on him. That's amazing, isn't it? Gwen closed her mouth in surprise, and if she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have believed it. Episode 35. After loading, Roth pressed the button on his arm, and the Saiwen Armor disappeared instantly. This is your Spider Silk launcher. I have also added quantum teleportation technology to it. As long as you press the button, you can instantly put on your spider suit. Not only did Lot add quantum teleportation technology to his Saiwen Armor, but he also modified Gwen's Spider Silk launcher. In this way, she does not have to bother changing clothes. Fantastic. Thank you. Gwen excitedly took the Spider Silk launcher, and then tiptoed and gave him a fragrant kiss as a token of gratitude. Having a beautiful woman send a fragrant kiss to Roth naturally does not mind, and it is not in vain that he has worked hard to transform. By the way, your recent Spider-Man event has been pretty good, right? Roth said and turned to the virtual screen on the other side, but he was actually trying to summon a monster to move. At present, he still needs to exchange the technology and drawings of the original Ultra Armor, otherwise his Ultra Factor will not be wasted. And when it comes to the Ultra Factor, the change this week has given him is huge. With his current physical fitness, he can punch at will and punch several times, and he can leap more than 10 meters in one jump. Even compared to the American team that took the super soldier serum, it is not weaker at all, or even stronger. And the improvement of the Ultra factor is not over. Now that he wears Saiwen Armor, his strength can be said to have been greatly improved. However, at present, the Saiwen Armor version 4.0 is faintly insufficient, and the original Ultra Armor must be created. You know, my father has always wanted to catch me, so these days are very unpleasant. Speaking of this, Gwen is very angry. Obviously he has been fighting criminals, but his father does not pay attention to those criminals, but is focused on catching her. Because the two did not agree on their concepts, they also quarreled at home once. That's why Gwen runs this way every day. Well, maybe you can reduce Spider-Man's actions lately. Roth shrugged his shoulders, looking helpless. Gwen sighed helplessly. Dee Dee. At this moment, Gwen's latest version of the Ultra smartphone rang, and she picked it up and looked at it. Roth has a monster appearing. Oh? Roth was a little surprised. He hadn't summoned a monster yet. Where did the monster come out? In this case, he would not be in a hurry to summon monsters. It's actually my school? Someone saw a lizard monster attacking a student at the school and one person was killed. Gwen looked stunned, but not long after, monsters actually appeared in the school again. Lizard monsters? Lot touched his chin and thought, if there is a lizard monster, it is only Dr. Connors, who has injected lizard potions. Could it be him? No, in the world of female spiders, it seems that it should be Peter Parker who seems to have turned into a lizard monster. And the attack on the school killed a student, which looks like Peter Parker taking revenge on the Fleischer who usually bullied him. No, I have to go back to school. Gwen said and turned to leave. Wait, I'll go with you. If the lizard monster is really Peter Parker, then it may be able to trigger the system task, so Roth said that everything should be followed and seen. Okay, let's go. Gwen readily agreed. Moments later, a private helicopter stopped at Imperial State University. However, when the two just got off the plane, they were surrounded by several policemen. Hey, Dad, what are you doing? Gwen shouted to George not far away, very dissatisfied. Gwen is glad that you are not at school, but get out of here right now. George said and waved his hand for the officers to leave. But we're here to investigate something about lizard monsters. Gwen had a headache, but she didn't expect her father to arrive at school so quickly, and now they had some trouble investigating the lizard monster. This matter has nothing to do with you. George at work showed no mercy, and then he looked at Roth sharply and said, Mr. Roth, I hope you will take Gwen away immediately. After seeing his daughter sent back last time, George also specially investigated the identity of his daughter's boyfriend. What he didn't expect was that his daughter's boyfriend was actually the founder of technology, the genius scientist Lot. He actually has an objection to his daughter's relationship with the other party. Although the status of the other party is not low. But there are definitely no fewer women around this kind of person, like Playboy Tony Stark. George was afraid that his daughter would be hurt because of this, but during this time, because of the quarrel with his daughter, he had not had time to voice his objections. Now he only hopes that Roth can quickly take his daughter away. After all, danger is not ruled out in schools. Seeing this, Roth shrugged helplessly, and then pulled Gwen back to the helicopter. With Uncle here, it seems that we have no chance to investigate. Really, if they continue to search like this, Dad is likely to be in danger. Although Gwen was a little angry, she was still very worried about her father's safety. Let's investigate again in the evening. Roth suggested. Well, that's all. Gwen nodded helplessly. Episode 36, Night. The two came to the school quietly. It is said that the person who was killed by the lizard man during the day is called Ferrant, and that person I know is the younger brother next to Fleischer, but why did the lizard man attack him alone? After searching in the classroom where the crime occurred, she did not find any useful clues, but what Gwen heard in the VX group during the day made her even more puzzled. Because that lizard monster looks like a premeditated revenge, no matter how it looks. Roth smiled and shook his head. If it's man-made revenge, who do you think? Man-made revenge? It can't be. Gwen was a little surprised, so to say that the lizard monster was actually a human, how could this be? But she thought about it, it's not impossible. Isn't the Hulk also a human change? You know it's not a coincidence. Roth spread his hands helplessly, and he couldn't say Peter Parker directly, otherwise it would be difficult to explain. Gwen frowned and believed his words. Fleischer often bullies other people at school, and it is difficult to know who is retaliating. Maybe you can ask who Fleischer bullied recently. Well, that's the only way to do it. Gwen nodded approvingly. With VX, this matter becomes a lot easier. Just ask in the school VX group, and you can quickly get the answer. Yes, Fleischer has converged a lot since the last monster thing, and only bullied 3 people in the past few days, including Wallace, Dennis, and Peter Parker. Gwen pronounced the names of 3 people in a row. Next, you should investigate the recent anomalies of these three people. Lot proposed with his hands folded over his chest. That's right, as long as you investigate the three of them, you will definitely be able to find the lizard man. Gwen nodded excitedly. This feeling of investigating a case made her feel quite interesting. After all, her father was the police chief. The next afternoon, Roth received a call from Gwen. Lot, I have investigated clearly. Peter Parker is the most suspicious of the three of them. After all, the last time I encountered a monster, it was when the three of Fleischer bullied Peter Parker, and Peter Parker has been a little wrong recently. Last time in the Grove, Gwen also met a panicked Peter Parker, and did not know what was happening. After some investigation, she realized that it was the time when Fleischer called Peter Parker to the Grove to bully. Fleischer later blamed Peter Parker for his younger brother's death. In the days that followed, Peter Parker became a changed person, becoming reticent and rarely talking to his classmates. So Gwen has every reason to believe that Peter Parker is a lizard man. Lot, do you say we should directly catch Peter Parker now? Of course not, arresting people must also be stolen and obtained. Roth decisively dismissed her idea. So what to do? Do you have to wait for him to take the initiative to become a lizard man? This is a good way, let him take the initiative to transform into a lizard man. What to do? Gwen asked curiously. Didn't Peter Parker want revenge on Fleischer? Capture him. I know what to do. Before he could finish speaking, Gwen thought of what to do, so she decisively hung up the phone and swung towards Fleischer's house in a spider suit. Roth looked at the hung-up phone a little helplessly. This chick is still so anxious to do things. But he also has to act. According to the positioning on the spider suit, he quickly found Gwen's location. In an abandoned factory outside Queens, New York. Spider-Man, you're Spider-Man, why are you kidnapping me? Fleischer, who had just woken up, was horrified to find that he was actually tied up, and it was Spider-Man who kidnapped him. Gwen glanced at him and ignored it, instead using Fleischer's cell phone to send a message to Peter Parker. She believed Peter Parker would definitely come if he saw this message. And things didn't go out of her way. At this time, Peter Parker, who was in the sewers, saw the provocative words on the VX, and his originally distorted face became even more angry. Fleischer, I must kill you. Peter Parker smashed the phone directly with a roar, and then his face was instantly covered with green scales, and he turned into a lizard man in the blink of an eye. The other side. Gwen had waited for a long time but still did not see Peter Parker appear, which made her a little irritated. Before she hung up Lot's phone, she just wanted to behave well, and it was best to solve this task easily. But now Peter Parker still hasn't come. Irritable, she could only use Fleischer's phone to frantically send messages to Peter Parker. And right then. Bang! Outside the abandoned factory, a loud noise suddenly came to mind. Gwen stood up abruptly, and then disappeared on the roof with a jump. Hey! Don't go, let me go. Fleischer obviously heard the loud noise, and he was immediately scared when he saw Spider-Man suddenly leave. In fact, he also vaguely guessed that the Lizard Man monster's target was him, but he happened to be out of school that day, so he escaped. And now that Spider-Man has found him, doesn't it just mean that his guess is correct? Bang! There was another loud bang, and then the already rusty gate of the abandoned factory was instantly knocked out. Immediately afterwards, a hideous and terrifying lizard man with a tyrannical aura walked in. Episode 37. Seeing the lizard man staring at himself, Fleischer was directly scared. Don't come here, Peter, you're Peter, please spare me. As if hearing his own name, the lizard man paused in his steps. Then I saw the green scales on his head disappear and change back to the appearance of Peter Parker. Fleischer, I didn't expect it. Fleischer saw that the lizard man was really Peter Parker, and immediately regretted that his intestines were blue, but it was useless to say anything now. Fleischer, since you pushed me to that monster, I vowed to take revenge on you. Do you know how desperate I was back then? Peter Parker roared with a twisted face, bursting out his usual reluctance and anger. At this moment, Fleischer knew what a jerk he was, but now it was too late to regret it, and he blamed Spider-Man. That's right, if Spider-Man hadn't tied him here, he wouldn't have been tied up here. For a while, his heart was full of resentment towards Spider-Man. Fleischer, do you know why I killed you? This is all your own self-seeking. After venting his dissatisfaction and anger, Peter Parker plans to kill him. And right then. Suddenly, a figure jumped from the steel frame above the abandoned factory, and Peter Parker, who had no time to react, flew out. You're Spider-Man. Peter Parker, who got up from the ground, stared angrily at the person in front of him who had sneaked up on him. Peter, go and turn yourself in. Gwen tried to persuade. Surrender? Impossible, it won't be long before the whole world will usher in evolution, haha, Peter Parker said and laughed maniacally. Peter, you're no longer saved. Seeing his crazy appearance, Gwen knew that persuasion was useless, and now she could only beat him down and send him to the police station. In an instant, she shot out spider silk with both hands and grabbed the steel beams on both sides, and then like a slingshot, she ejected herself. The speed was so fast that Peter Parker was kicked out again without reacting. The power of this blow made him unable to get up for a while. Seeing this, Gwen slowly walked over and was about to persuade Peter Parker to turn himself in again. However, at this moment, Peter Parker suddenly got up from the ground and sneaked up at a very fast speed. What? Gwen's pupils shrank suddenly, as if he didn't expect that Peter Parker would be completely fine after eating the attack he had just had. Bang! The next moment, the stunned Gwen was also punched out by Peter Parker. Underestimating the enemy is a taboo. It was at this moment that Lot's voice sounded in the communicator in Gwen's ear. I was careless. Gwen got up from the ground in embarrassment, but fortunately she reacted quickly enough to block Peter Parker's sneak attack with her hand at the last critical moment. Otherwise, she would probably be injured at this moment. But from this moment on, she was already serious. The spider suit created by Roth for her is very defensive, and the spider silk launcher can launch hundreds of structures of spider silk, which is harder than steel wire. This greatly strengthened Gwen's strength. Although Peter Parker has also experienced several times of lizard potion strengthening, he does not have an advantage in the face of Gwen, who is serious. The two fought for a moment, and were wounded by Gwen's beaten pieces, and then tied up by spider silk. Phew, finally done. Gwen couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when she saw the tightly tied Peter Parker. How? Did you get the lizard man? At this time, Lot's voice sounded in her ears again. Of course, you can rest assured when I get out. Gwen replied somewhat smugly. Yes? Roth frowned. In fact, he also triggered the system task just now, and the task requirement was to solve the lizard man. But now the task is not completed. Does it take Peter Parker down to complete the mission? If this is the case, then he will have to do it, who makes this task worth 5,000 points. And at this moment, Alice's virtual projection suddenly appeared next to him. Sir, a large number of lizard men have reportedly been found in the center of New York. In the video on the virtual screen, dozens of lizard men are fighting with the New York police, and these lizard men are invulnerable, which really brings a lot of trouble to the police. Seeing this, Lot's face changed. Lizard men are not only Peter Parker, could it be Dr. Connors? He remembered that the drug containing the lizard DNA serum was developed by Dr. Connors, and where did Peter Parker get it? Needless to say, it must have been stolen from Dr. Connors' institute. In other words, Dr. Connors is the key to this mission. After understanding this, Roth put on the Saiwen Armor directly without nonsense, and then flew out of the building. Gwen, the lizard men are not just Peter Parker. Now that there are a large number of lizard men in the city center, you send Peter Parker to the police station first and then come to help. Okay, I'll be right over. Gwen was a little surprised when she heard the news, but she didn't expect that so many lizard men would appear in a short period of time, and she was worried about her father. After all, if a lizard man appears in the city center, then her father, as the police chief, will definitely rush to the front line. But it's useless to worry so much, she needs Peter Parker to be sent to the police station now. Thinking of this, she pulled up Peter Parker and jumped out. Hey! Wait for me, now let me go. Behind her, Fleischer saw her leave, and suddenly shouted with some collapse. But now Gwen can't manage that much. Episode 38, The Other Side. By the time Roth came downtown, it was already chaotic. The streets were filled with sirens and gunfire. The battle between the lizard men and the police intensified. And all the lizard men seemed to be protecting something, not allowing the police to approach. Roth looked up and saw that it was Osborn Building, the company founded by the original Green Goblin. He was also the company where Dr. Connors previously worked. You don't have to guess that Dr. Connors wants to use the launcher on the roof of the company to release the lizard potion throughout the city. At that time, everyone will become lizard men. Of course, he would not allow this kind of thing to happen. Meanwhile, inside the Osborn Building, Dr. Connors, who had no obstruction, easily got on the elevator to the top floor. At this moment, Dr. Connors looked very excited. Soon, it will be able to make everyone evolve immediately. Only lizards are the end of human evolution. Haha. Sorry, I had to interrupt you. I'll break your unrealistic illusions. Just when Dr. Connors was fantasizing about turning everyone in the world into lizard men, Lot's tall figure stood in front of him. Dr. Connors' smile stopped abruptly, and his tyrannical gaze stared at him deadly. Steel Superman? No, you can call me Ultra Warrior. Roth corrected the other party's title with a serious face. He felt that he could not let the title of Iron Superman become his code name, and he had to make his name as an Ultra Warrior. Steel Superman or something is really ugly. I don't care who you are, get out of the way now. I will be able to make all mankind evolve in no time. At the end, Dr. Connors once again showed a feverish look. I don't want to be a lizard man. When the words fell, Roth's figure flashed and came to Dr. Connors, and then a punch slammed directly into his face. Bang! The defenseless Dr. Connors was directly hit by this punch and flew to the edge of the roof, almost falling off the roof. Dr. Connors, who struggled to get up, roared, and then rushed towards the launch pad on the roof. Obviously, he knew that he was no match for Steel Superman, but as long as he fired the lizard potion, then his purpose was achieved. Seeing this, Roth began to charge the palm cannon in his hand. Bang! Dr. Connors, who was just about to put the green lizard potion behind him into the launch pad, was stunned, because this cannon directly destroyed the entire launch pad. Now it is impossible to launch a lizard potion. And with just a few jars of lizard potions in his hand, he couldn't infect a few people at all. Damn it! Dr. Connors looked back at him angrily, his red eyes full of crazy killing intent. Don't look at me like this, you have long been told not to have those unrealistic illusions. Roth shrugged, looking innocent. Roar! Dr. Connors, whose plan was completely interrupted, couldn't care about anything else, and now he just wanted to tear the person in front of him to shreds. What's the hurry, forget it, let's give you a pain. At the same time as the words fell, Roth had already drawn his spersium sword and rushed out. Swish! I saw a sword light staggered, and Roth had already come behind Dr. Connors, threw a sword flower and put away the spikum sword. After maintaining a forward position, Dr. Connors showed a red line on his neck, and then his head slowly fell to the ground. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the lizard man and getting 5,000 points. Sure enough, Dr. Connors is the target of this mission. Lot stretched, this time the mission was much easier than killing monsters, and the reward points were not a lot at all. Of course, the hardest part of this task is determining the location of the lizard men. If I can't make it, I'm afraid I will really be at Dr. Connors' hands. At that time, the whole city will be in trouble with lizard men, and he is not afraid of having the ultra factor, but Susan will be in trouble. Is it over already? At this time, Gwen finally rushed over, and her pupils shrank when she looked at the headless corpse on the ground. Well, this guy is the guy who developed the lizard potion, and he has been killed by me. By the way, there are still many lizard men downstairs. Yes, those lizard men are difficult to pester the police, and there is no way to take them, but fortunately I solved it. Before he came here, Gwen had already subdued the lizard men, otherwise the police would have been killed and injured. There should be an antidote in Dr. Connors' office. Wait, Dr. Connors? Gwen was shocked when she heard the name. Roth nodded and explained, that's right, Dr. Connors is this lizard man, he developed a lizard potion, and wants to make everyone in New York become a lizard man through this launch pad, but obviously his plan has failed. Dr. Connors would actually do this kind of thing. By the way, Peter Parker will become a lizard man because of Dr. Connors. She had previously worked as an intern at Osborn and was familiar with Dr. Connors. I didn't expect that the usually amiable scientist would actually do such a crazy thing. And she also met Peter Parker during an internship before, and I am afraid that Peter Parker met Dr. Connors at that time. In an instant, Gwen understood a lot of things. Don't be sad, let's go to the antidote to the lizard potion and turn those lizard men back. Lot said and headed downstairs. Seeing this, Gwen quickly followed. Soon the two arrived at Dr. Connors' office. Episode 39. This should be the antidote to make the lizard men turn back. You hurry up and take it to those lizard men downstairs to use. Roth handed the blue test tube to Gwen. What about you? Gwen was stunned. I have to destroy the lizardmen's experimental data, and if this kind of thing is controlled by others, I am afraid it will cause war. Roth is absolutely not alarmist. These lizard men are invulnerable, crazy killing, absolutely a terrorist killing machine on the battlefield. So it must not be handed over. Of course, he also has his own selfishness, and this lizard potion can indeed make people reborn with severed limbs, but there are still this side effect that has not been solved. Once the side effects are resolved, then the rebirth of the severed limb can be truly achieved. So before destroying all the experimental data, he had to keep a copy. I see. After listening to his words, Gwen also felt that it was better to destroy such a thing. Without much thought, she jumped out of the window with the antidote to the lizard potion. Alice, there will be a backup of all experimental data on lizard potions. Okay sir, I'm backing up my data. The backup is complete, and the data about the lizard potion has been saved. Do you want to name it? Alice asked. Just use the original name and delete all the data about lizard potions here. Yes sir. After doing all this, Roth didn't stop much, and while flying out of the Osborn building, he also saw Gwen below helping the lizard men recover. Ignoring it, he quickly disappeared into the night sky. Just after he left, another flame came. Was it solved by that guy again? Tony was a little helpless. He was doing research before, and when he knew that a lizard man appeared, he quickly dared to come, but he didn't expect it to be late. I heard that guy solved alien armor in New Mexico and was invited by S.H.I.E.L.D. to join the Avengers? Tony recalled that Nick Fury had asked him the other day if he knew the true identity of Iron Superman. The answer is definitely no, and he also wants to know who the other party really is. He was actually able to develop armor that was more powerful than his steel suit. Thinking about it this way, Tony felt a little sympathetic. After all, geniuses are always lonely. It is also a good thing to have such a talent that is not weaker than his existence. At the very least, what you invent and create can also be appreciated by peers, right? Thinking of this, Tony turned around and flew into the sky and disappeared. SHIELD headquarters. Director, there is news. In the director's office, Coulson handed the investigation report to the past. Nick Fury took the report and looked at it carefully. Last time in New Mexico, Spider-Man and Iron Superman appeared together. I think there must be a connection between them, and after so many days of investigation, we have been able to determine the identity of Spider-Man. Is Spider-Man actually the daughter of New York Queens Police Chief George Stacy? Nick Fury frowned. In fact, Spider-Man was also on his Avengers invitation list. It happened that last time Spider-Man appeared with Iron Superman, he sent Coulson to investigate. Unexpectedly, he really investigated Spider-Man's identity. There is also news that this Gwen Stacy, also known as Spider-Man, is an intern of Ultra Technology, and her boyfriend is said to be the genius teenager Lot. Coulson didn't go on at this point. And Nick Fury already understood what he meant. I should have thought long ago, a scientist as genius as Tony Stark, even if he developed a steel armor, there is nothing strange, right? Coulson nodded irrefutably. That's true, but this genius has always been very low-key. Low-key, that's not necessarily. Nick Fury said and picked up the New York Daily News on the side, which was the news about the construction of rocket silos by OTT Technology a few days ago. It seems that this genius has made big moves recently. Coulson also quickly thought of something, and Technology suddenly had this big move, and there must be some plan. He must be contacted as soon as possible. Nick Fury said, looking at Coulson. Seeing this, Coulson didn't know what he thought. Why don't you let Natasha go? Natasha has other tasks. Okay then. Coulson had no choice but to take on this task, saying that the other party saved his life in New Mexico last time. Maybe he should thank him. The next morning. Stretching, Roth woke up refreshed. Sir, you have 3 unread messages on your VX, and a man named Coulson is looking for you and has been waiting for an hour. Coulson? Roth was stunned, and then smiled helplessly. It seems that S.H.I.E.L.D. has found itself. In fact, when he was out with Gwen, he knew that he would speed up the pace at which S.H.I.E.L.D. found him. After all, although Gwen's strength is good, it is too tender and exposes too many clues. If it was an agent, it was only a matter of time before she was found. Immediately afterwards, it is understandable that he found himself by following the vine. Let's talk about VX first. Roth was not in a hurry to see Coulson, but was concerned about his VX. After all, he doesn't have many VX friends, but each one is very special and important. Episode 40. It's news from Miss Helen Zhao. At the same time as Alice's words fell, a virtual screen appeared in front of him. I read your information, and it's also good to have ideas about lizard potions. Can it bring a severed limb back to life? Good idea. It's just a pity that the shortcomings are also very obvious. Seeing these 3 words, the corner of Lot's mouth couldn't help but show a smile. Yesterday, after he got the research of the lizard potion, he casually sent a part to Helen Zhao. The purpose is to arouse the interest of the other party, and now it seems to work well. Needless to say, Helen Zhao is an Asian and a genius biologist. In terms of biology, few people in the entire Marvel universe can compare to it. In the original Avengers 2, he created a body for Ultron that can carry the power of the heart gem, and its ability is undoubted. The two met at a biology seminar. At that time, he cheekily asked Helen Zhao for VX contact information. His purpose is self-evident. If Technology has Helen Zhao, a top biologist, to join, it will be very beneficial to his future research. Just like the study of lizard potions, if handed over to Helen Zhao, it will definitely be able to perfectly solve the side effects of the potion. This is why Roth attaches so much importance to Helen Zhao. After thinking about it, Roth replied with a sentence. If Miss Helen Zhao is interested, you can come to Technology, and I will hand over the complete experimental data to you. Without making him wait long, Helen Zhao replied to him soon. Mr. Roth is really generous. Don't you know that lizard potions would be a major disaster for the whole world if they were taken by the military? Of course I know, but I believe that Miss Helen Zhao will not disclose this news, and I also believe that Miss Helen Zhao will be able to solve the side effects of lizard potions, and your name will leave a significant mark in history. You don't have to compliment me. I do have some interest in lizard potions, but I can't walk away at the moment. It's okay, I welcome Miss Helen Zhao here at any time. Then look forward to our cooperation. After ending the chat, the corners of Roth's mouth rose slightly to reveal a reassuring smile. It seemed that Helen Zhao had no time to run. In the future, he will also have one more genius biologist by his side. What's going on to laugh so much? At this time, Susan next to her had woken up at some point. Lot turned around and kissed her on the forehead and smiled, just glad that soon a genius biologist will join at technology, yes? Susan wasn't too surprised. Susan, you look tired today. Seeing that she had no intention of getting up, Roth was a little surprised. After all, Susan had already gone to the company at 9 o'clock. Who do you think caused it? Susan couldn't help but give him a blank look. Today I want to give myself a day off, and the company's affairs will be handled by you. Okay then. Roth shrugged helplessly, thinking that last night was indeed tossed enough. He is naturally fine now that he has Ultra Factor to strengthen his body, but Susan cannot. Good morning, Chairman. Today's chairman is also so handsome. Greeting the admiring and adoring eyes of the employees, he came to the president's office. Mr. Roth, you are finally here. Despite waiting here for nearly 2 hours, Coulson's attitude was very friendly. It's not hard to change to someone else's long wait. I heard you are that. It's the Bureau of Homeland Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics. That's right, that's the name. To be honest, aren't you going to change the name? Lot nodded in understanding. Our chief is considering this issue. Coulson was a little embarrassed, although he had complained about the organization's long name, but it was not for him to decide. Ultra technology doesn't seem to have any connection with you, so what is the purpose of your coming here? Lot asked while sipping tea. The purpose of my visit this time is mainly to thank Mr. Roth. If you hadn't made a move in New Mexico last time, I'm afraid we would have been in danger. Coulson finished speaking, looking at him tightly, wanting to see what kind of reaction he would have. However, Roth did not answer, still drinking tea unhurriedly. Coulson's face froze, and he quickly said, Mr. Roth, you should know that this world is becoming more and more dangerous. All kinds of monsters are emerging one after another, and only someone with the ability like you can protect this world. This is a plan from our Homeland Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. You can check it out. At the end, Coulson put a document he had already prepared on his desk. Roth glanced at the document that said exactly the Avengers plan. You better go back. I don't consider myself a superhero, or I don't think I can save the world. His goal was never to become a superhero or save the world, but to be able to protect himself from an alien invasion in the near future. It's even more so that Thanos doesn't hit that finger. Besides, half of the monsters were summoned by him. And his answer also caused Coulson a headache, but it was expected. After all, from the beginning, Iron Superman has not attracted as much attention as Iron Man. But he didn't give up.